They told you to speak up, to be seen, to be loud, to make your presence known. But they were wrong, because real power doesn't announce itself. It watches, it waits, it calculates. Loudness might get attention, but silence commands respect. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." And that's the thing about staying quiet. They don't see you coming. While everyone else rushes to speak, to prove, to dominate the room, you stay still, you observe, you let the chaos reveal what people try to hide with words. And that stillness, that unreadability, it becomes your leverage, because silence is not emptiness, it's a mirror. It reflects people's insecurities back at them, and when they can't read you, they project. They assume you know more than you do. They fill in the blanks with fear. They hesitate, and hesitation is power. But most people can't stand being unread. They overshare, they over-explain, they try to control perception by flooding it. You don't. You let them wonder. You let them feel the tension of not knowing where you stand. You don't flinch. You don't chase understanding. You don't defend your silence, because silence is your strategy. It lets others reveal themselves while you remain intact. You say less and learn more, and the more you listen, the more you realize. People show you who they are when they think you're not looking. And you've made an art of looking without reacting. Silence isn't absence, it's precision. It's how you remove the noise, so you can hear what actually matters. Most people speak to be heard. You don't need that. You speak only when the words will shift the room, and that's what makes you dangerous. You've seen it. The ones who talk first usually reveal too much. The ones who talk loud usually hide insecurity. The ones who fill silence usually fear it. But you wait. Not because you're passive, because you're intentional. You know that every word you don't say holds more weight than anything they rush to explain. You know that silence makes people uncomfortable, and in discomfort, they reveal what confidence would hide. You don't give people a version of yourself to interpret. You let them sit with their assumptions. Let them project. Let them circle around what they think you might be, because they can't control what they can't define. That's your edge. Power isn't always about force. Sometimes it's about not blinking, not explaining, not reacting. Carl Jung talked about this, how people fear what they cannot categorize, that our instincts are wired to mistrust what stays in shadow. And that's where you live. Not because you're hiding, but because you've learned that illumination isn't always strength. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to give them access. And the beauty of it, they lean in closer. They try harder. They talk more. They reveal more. While you stay right where you are, quiet, calculating, present. There's a reason you've always felt out of place in loud rooms. You weren't made for noise. You were built for impact. And impact doesn't always explode. Sometimes it just lingers, unspoken, undeniable. You've learned to sit in silence long enough to hear what others try to hide with sound, to sense intention beneath tone, to watch patterns form behind smiles. And when you speak, you don't explain, you don't argue, you just drop one line that cuts through the noise. That's power. The kind they can't train, the kind they can't copy. And the longer you stay quiet, the more they notice your presence. Not because you're loud, but because your silence has gravity. They can't place you, they can't predict you, and people fear what they can't predict. That's why they try to provoke you, to pull you out, to make you react, to get you loud, because silence terrifies them. But you don't give them that. you've mastered the art of restraint, because you know the truth. Power doesn't prove, it chooses. If this feels familiar, if you've ever known your silence was your strongest move, subscribe and hit the bell. Not to get louder, but to stay sharp. Because there's a difference between being quiet and being small. And you're anything but small. Eventually, they stop asking. They stop poking. They stop trying to figure you out. Because they realize something dangerous. You don't need to be figured out. You're not trying to win them. You're not performing certainty. You're not managing their perception. You're just there, clear, still, watching. And that stillness, it makes people second-guess everything they say. It makes them question their own tone, their own confidence, because you've mastered the one thing they haven't, self-command. You're not a slave to reaction. You're not owned by the need to clarify. You've deleted the reflex to defend yourself, and in that space, you create discomfort that feels like control. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." But you've made sure that the people around you don't own you, because they don't know you. They may admire, they may fear, but they don't consume. Because you've stopped offering yourself as open access. You've stopped explaining your every move, your every silence, your every shift in energy. And the result, they start leaning in. They speak more. They give you the information you never had to ask for. That's the paradox of staying quiet. People think you're hiding, but really, you're observing. And in that observation, you win the game without ever playing by their rules. You don't need to dominate the room. You are the room, because the energy shifts when you enter and lingers when you leave. That's not charisma, that's containment. You've stopped leaking your power through explanations, apologies, and oversharing. You've stopped giving access to people who only listen to reply. You've stopped trying to be seen because your presence is felt, and what they feel is pressure, not forced, not loud, but undeniable. Because in a world of noise, the one who stays silent holds the signal. And in that silence, you found something they can't touch. Clarity, control, calm. You don't chase understanding. You don't fear being misunderstood. You don't need to be right, because you've chosen to be sovereign. So from here on, you let your silence do the talking. You let your energy enter the room before your words. And when you do speak, they listen. Because mystery isn't weakness, it's design. And now I'll ask you this. Have you ever said less and realized it made people respect you more? Tell me in the comments.